Hello, everybody. I have Courtney Jacobs on with me today. And Courtney, I'm so thankful that you're on with me. Courtney's actually been coaching me. And Courtney's the person you want to go to if you've tried everything else and nothing has worked, as in my case, and you really need somebody to fill in those missing pieces of the puzzle for you. Now, Courtney works with Mary Ruddock at Enable Your Healing. She also has her own practice called Final Key Wellness. And I've engaged with Courtney in terms of, working on my gut health, trying to fix my leaky gut and all my problems that go along with that, the neurological problems, the physical, the mental, and everything in between. So thanks so much for coming on today, Courtney. And I'm really looking forward to asking some questions of you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could just start by telling your story, because I know that you've kind of been in that similar state of where you tried everything, and maybe you could sort of bring us to how you got to the point where you are now.
Yeah, so thank you for asking. Let's see. About 10 or 12 years ago, I started to get sick, and I was a extreme athlete at the time, training for speed for distance running and lifting a couple hours a day. And I started noticing I could go out and run 8 miles one day. The next day, I could barely make it 3. And I'm like, what is going on? And then I started just getting weird symptoms. My belly started bloating. I went to the doctors. They told me, you're the picture of health. I continued to get sicker. I went back next year and I was like, I can't eat a handful of foods. It's so weird. I used to be able to eat everything. And they said, and my belly would distend like 6 months pregnant. And the GI said to me, everybody gets gas and bloating. And I was like, yeah, no, like I can't eat foods like I used to be able to eat foods. So when I went back 6 months later, when my food had been cut like in half, it went from like not being able to eat 6 foods to like now I could eat half the amount of foods. Um, they asked if I would like to see their psychiatry department. And I got really upset in the appointment. And he said, see, you have anxiety. I see you getting upset right now. You need to go see the psychiatrist. And I was like, I don't have a mental problem. My body, like I'm not okay. So fatigue had set in, joint pain, brain fog. I started getting bruises everywhere. Sometimes walking up the stairs would just be like to where I lived would just be exhausting. I would go to work and have to like hold my head up against the wall because just holding the weight of my head felt like a lot. And then I was doing tons and tons and tons of research. And I was like, this is so fun. And I'm like learning about functional medicine. But the weird thing was, the more I learned, and I was like, the more I learned and the more foods I cut out, it was like the sicker I kept getting. And I was like, this just doesn't even make sense. And then I figured out on my own that I had SIBO. So I went to the GI, and the GI told me that that's not an actual condition, that it is an idea, it's not made up, it's theory. And so I flew myself to the Portland SIBO Center, and I worked with Allison Seebecker's people.
Oh,
And
wow. Okay.
yeah, they helped me a bit. And then I flew myself around to some of the best practitioners in the country and got better, but not so much. And then I was like, okay, now it's lectins. Now I have a problem with lectins. Oh, okay, now I have a problem with oxalates. My joints hurt. Here's the oxalate. Okay, now I'm reacting to salicylates. Now I have histamine issues. Okay, this is new. Like, and it was just like this cascading thing of one symptom after another. And I kept researching and researching and researching, and it was just amazing the knowledge I was gaining. And then I thought, I want to go to school for this, except for I wasn't really better. And then I got about halfway better, but my food intolerances never went away, meaning I figured out how to just live. Like if I froze my meat, I would be okay. If I drink a parsley shake, which would lower my histamine levels, I'd be okay. If I didn't eat this food, basically like if I spun these plates and hopped on this leg, like, and turned around 3 times, I was like okay-ish to function, but it wasn't like I was okay. And then I moved, and then lights started to get too bright. Like I would be at work and the lights were too bright. And I would just think, oh man, everybody, I like go to work, I'd try to turn lights off in there. And they're like, why are you turning the lights off? Then I started noticing sound, like background noise, like the fan in the bathroom was too much. Then stimulation of any sort just started getting too much. And I had always been a sensitive person and an empath. And I was like, then it was like I became sensitive to the whole world. And then I got to the point where I couldn't wear earrings anymore. So I put earrings in and they felt like these huge balls. And I was like, something is so wrong with me because I'm becoming sensitive to the whole world, to like touch now. So it's not even just foods or supplements. And through my whole process, I could never really take many supplements. Like if I opened up a supplement, I had to take granules of it. And they would say, I've never had anybody react to this. And like, I would be the one. So from like granules of it. So I wasn't sure what to do about all this sensitivity stuff. And I had moved from California to DC. And the 4 years that I was there, I had gone through seasonal depression every winter because I like being outside every year. And I thought, oh my gosh, I cannot go through another winter with seasonal depression. And I had already had experiences on SSRIs and had to pay somebody a lot of money to help me titrate off of it very slowly. That was a horrific experience. So I was not going to go down a pharma route. So I found a holistic psychiatrist in Massachusetts. I went to her just because I felt normal and stable. And I said, please help me not have seasonal depression this year. But when I filled out her intake form, I like filled out pages. I mean, I always had like pages to write. I react to this. I have light sensitivity, sound sensitivity. I wasn't even going to her for these things. And she says to me on our first appointment, you have limbic system impairment. And I said, what's that? And what's that? And she then explained it to me, and she told me about a couple different limbic programs. And so basically what limbic system impairment is, or limbic system hypersensitivity, is our brain stem, is our limbic system. It's the fight or flight part of our brain. Many of us who have chronic illness have limbic system hypersensitivity. What that means is your brain is constantly releasing cortisol, adrenaline, and norepinephrine. So even if you're on the perfect diet, and even if you have the perfect supplements, your body cannot cellularly do what it needs to do because there are all of these stress chemicals coming out. And when you do limbic system training, like limbic work, which now I'm a limbic coach. So I'm a functional nutritionist and I'm also a limbic coach. But this is our neocortex, this front part. It's the thinking part of our brain. It's what separates us from all other mammals. It goes offline when we have limbic system impairment. When you do limbic work, you teach this part of the brain to come online and you hold it down. So you get yourself out of the fight or flight and you reteach your brain to release dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, which are the feel-good chemicals. They calm your body. When you get your brain online, your body gets to a state where it can actually repair. So I started doing that and my light sensitivity started to go away. My sound sensitivity started to go away. I started to be able to eat food, which was like amazing because I had been through school for functional nutrition. I still didn't have food back. I started to be able to eat food without having major flares. So I threw myself into limbic work because when she told me that, I thought, what do I have to lose? Like half these protocols have made me sicker. Like I have nothing to lose here and I'm not getting better. So I threw myself into it. I got myself surrounded in limbic communities. I made friends with other limbic retrainers at the time. I got myself a personal limbic coach. So I had somebody one-on-one working with me. And I wanted my life back. And what limbic work gave me is remission. So out of all of the things that I did, had I never done limbic work, I wouldn't have got to remission. And I didn't do any new protocol, any new supplements. I wasn't even on any supplements when I did limbic work. I couldn't even take any then. Limbic work actually got me to a place where I could take supplements. But I've also wired my brain for like the most happy, joyous state. It's pretty radical. I mean, my life is really wonderful and beautiful now. And I'm so grateful. So I was sick for 8 years and I'm grateful to be on the other side. And so now I do this for work and I'm just like, like, come, don't give up, don't give hope, like, don't give up hope because even the worst cases can have remission. Yeah. So that's
Wow,
my story.
that's incredible. And so many of the symptoms that you're listing there in terms of like light sensitivity and everything else, like, I mean, I walk around my house with my hat and my sunglasses on because I can't stand looking outside. The sounds, like every little thing bugs me. So I'm totally familiar with everything you're saying. I think a lot of people who are listening to this feel the same way.
Yeah.
So first off, I'm curious just to backtrack a little bit. What do you think set off your SIBO, or what do you think set off all this to begin with? Was it your diet? Were stress, antibiotics? Like what, is there something in particular you could think of?
Yeah. So, it's all really complex. Like I can tell you during my actual perfect storm, I had been living in a home with mold, but I didn't know it.
Hmm,
I had just come out of a divorce, which was very stressful.
right.
Um, and I was marathon training, so I was putting a lot of physical stress on my body.
Hmm,
Those three things were happening. Um, when I was younger, I went through 2 rounds of Accutane, which is very serious, high dose
yeah.
um, drug to get rid of acne. So that probably put serious notches in me. And then I went through a period of my life where I drank a lot. And that probably didn't help the situation. No, that didn't help the situation. And then I just had a perfect storm. So the three things combined, right? Like maybe had I been living in the place with mold without a divorce and marathon training, maybe my body could have processed some of it. But it was just too much. And it wasn't until afterwards that I moved out that I started realizing, oh, all the bruising, the cold hands and feet, the like all my symptoms were so mold related, but nobody was pointing to that at the time.
Yeah, well, it's almost like, speaking to my twin here, because I took Accutane a long time. So a lot of these things are, you see a lot of similarities between people who are sick in these communities, right?
Yeah.
So can you run us through, I don't want to give away all your tricks of the trade, but can you run us through like, what does limbic training look like? Can you maybe give some details as to what goes on in limbic training?
Yeah, for sure. So limbic work has two different components. One of it is an actual practice a day that you do for an entire hour. Um, Limbic work sounds really cool and fun and people learn about it, but it's not something you can cognitively know. You can't read a book about it and fix your limbic system. You can't watch a DVD. You have to literally sit in a practice in an elevated state, teaching your brain to release this dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, um, which will then rewire your brain. That is the biggest key. The other thing is all day practices. And so the one that was probably most radical for me was I was told when I first started that I had to stop researching. And that I was like, stop researching. This is my life. I listen to podcasts and YouTube and read books. And like, this is my hobby. It's not just my hobby. I love it. And it's like, I'm this detective and like, and I have to look up all of these things. And what I didn't realize is all of my research had been making me sicker. They also told me I could no longer talk about my condition or my symptoms. And when I removed and stopped doing those two things, I quickly realized that my brain had been thinking about my health 24 hours a day.
Right.
So I was stressed out about my health every time I walked into a building, every time I ate something, every time a light was too bright, every time. So no wonder my poor body didn't heal, because I was stressed out, panicked, looking for stuff. And I didn't realize that I was stressed out looking for the stuff. But I can now see, like, holy cow, my little system was just like having an onslaught. And I just want to tell a lot of you guys out there who are in the forums online, like in these health forums, I invite you to get out of them, to find a limbic coach. If you relate to any of these symptoms, find somebody. Um, and oh, what I want to say about the people in the groups, those are the people not getting better. They're not getting better. The people that have gotten well, they're not in those groups. And so those groups can be scary and keep you stuck, and is not, like, you need to get yourself by people like myself and other people who have recovered, who have a way out, who have a solution, who are, anyway. So the researching, and then there's a whole bunch of other daily practices that you do to rewire the limbic system, but that's one of the most important.
Okay. And so that might sort of segue us into like, what are some of the biggest mistakes, which I was going to kind of ask you. But so I guess being in the groups, constantly being fixated on your health is probably a thing. So, I mean, it makes sense, right? Because a healthy person isn't researching about their health 24 hours a day, right? So,
Yeah.
um, are there any other mistakes that you see people making, that maybe it's like if somebody discovers they have SIBO and they have all the symptoms that you had, is there anything that you'd say, okay, let's take a step back and let's sort of regather ourselves here?
Yeah, I mean, here's a basic thing about recovery when you're thinking about getting somebody to remission with chronic health conditions. Had I known what I know now, I would have gone about my whole experience different. Number one, if you have SIBO, it is, I want to say 90% of the time, it's a secondary condition. It is never, ever, ever something I go after first. I have been through hundreds of other clients and people that have been through herbal routes, rifaximin, like all of the things, elemental diets, and it just keeps coming back, coming back, coming back. And so if you don't fix the underlying problem, you're like, it's like whack-a-mole. And every time you go through a kill round, you can often end up sometimes worse, or you feel better for a short reprieve. So a lot of the big protocols, like the big kill protocols, or something as simple as like candida, right? When we have candida overgrowth, a lot of times the candida is there because it's protecting our body from heavy metals. And so our body is this complex, beautifully orchestrated thing. And sometimes sets of overgrowth are actually there to protect us. And so if you go off and kill the wrong thing early, too soon, you can actually, so then if you go off and try to kill somebody's candida and they actually have heavy metal issues, now they have tons of symptoms, but they're dealing with the heavy metal issue. Where a lot of times, if you get the gut and the brain online, the body will actually balance out the SIBO or the candida or whatever's going on. And sometimes at the very end, if you have to do a little bit of kill supplement, something like that. So not chasing any of your big things that might be overgrown, and looking for a root cause, I think, is super important. The other thing that I would say is no quick actions, right? Like, and you need a good, skilled practitioner. I don't care how much you're researching, like, I need a practitioner for me. We cannot see what we can't see on ourselves, and we get scared and we take quick actions too much. This supplement didn't work, this diet didn't work, now I need this. And a lot of times somebody's moving too fast, making too many switches, doing too many things for their body. So to get somebody really skilled on your side, and you'll talk to somebody and you'll be able to tell, do they really know? Like you'll be able to feel it in your heart. Like, have they been where I've been? Okay, and then have them walk you through the process. Because sometimes when things flare through the healing journey, it's actually advantageous. And so you need somebody next to your side to be like, okay, this part's okay. We're going to keep moving through. Okay, we're going to make a shift here. But I see way too many people come with charts and they've tried 50 different things. None of them they've stuck with that long. And they're just researching and studying and doing all of this stuff. So it's just way too much going on for sensitive bodies.
So I don't want to pivot too much. I do want to come back to limbic in just a minute, but I just have to ask, because part of this channel is about dealing with psychotropic drug withdrawals.
Yeah.
In my journey, it was from benzos and currently still on Cymbalta, unfortunately. A lot of people I talk to, they seem to think that there's nothing they could do to get better. Like they're having a really hard time tapering off of the medication. And they say, well, there's nothing I could do to get better until I'm off the medication. Is that something that you've seen in your practice? Do you think that people can heal somewhat while still on this medication, try to
Yeah.
taper off of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So what happens is, depending on where somebody's body's at, so that's a really great question, right? And it can be a very scary thing. I was stuck on something that it took me 8 or 9 months to get off of. It had actually taken me 3 years because I had tried the way the doctor had suggested multiple times with pretty violent reactions, until I found somebody who could titrate me properly. But sometimes the body is not robust, healthy enough to actually titrate off. So sometimes we have to get somebody's body strong enough so that we can give the body the support it needs to actually titrate them properly. And then titration processes look like whatever somebody thinks is slow, they have to go 8 times slower. You just think this is a marathon. It's a really slow thing. But anybody who's stuck on these drugs right now, you're not stuck for the rest of your life. Your body can still recover a bit with them in there. But sometimes you just have to pause so we can get the body strong enough so that it can actually detox when you start the titration process. But yeah. Actually, I had a gal who was almost just to remission, and she didn't start titrating till she was almost till remission, because she was nervous to go through it. So right now we're going through that, but she's 80% of the way.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, there you go, guys. So one thing that I want to ask you about, I'm trying to think off the top of my head here. You mentioned, so one thing that I've talked to a lot of people in like the SIBO world and psychotropic drug world. Now, I had something very strange happen. I've been dealing with this for 5.5 years now, right? And one thing I've noticed, I've talked to other people, they say, when I go on a trip somewhere, or it's my birthday, or somebody comes to visit me from out of town, it's so weird. I'm so sick, but the second my plane landed in such and such a country and I was on vacation, I just started feeling better.
Yeah.
And I remember when you were coaching me, you're like, Scott, I think you need to really feel more joy in your life and do fun things. That's such a healer. So can you explain, like, what is behind that? It might be a dumb question, but I'm actually just kind of curious for myself.
Yeah, not at all. So if at all you guys listening have gone to Hawaii, or you've gone to the cabin, or you just went away to your girlfriend's for the night, and you were like, oh, I felt better the whole time I was in Hawaii. I felt better. I ate a couple things and I was fine. It's so weird. I was just like, okay. What I can tell you is that lets you know you have limbic system impairment, because when you have a hardware problem, and if you think of hardware is like your body, broken bone, organs misplaced, if your intestines are spun and tied in a knot and you have a blockage, if you fly to Hawaii, that blockage isn't going to be any different. It's still going to be there. If you have a broken arm, it's still going to be broken in Hawaii. If you have a software problem, that means your brain. Our brain is a software program for our whole body. If you have a software problem, you can go to Hawaii and have less symptoms. So what's actually going on there? Well, you think about it, you're not researching. You're not stressed about your condition. You're not in all the triggers in your house looking at supplements and books. And here's where I got sick. And here's my coffee enemas. And here's all this stuff sitting around the house. You're in Hawaii, in LA. You're having a wonderful time. And so what happens to a lot of us through chronic illness is our worlds become our hell. And in that, we get sicker. So one of the things with limbic training is I have people bring joy back to their life, because that state, like when I have clients come back from Hawaii, I'm like, okay, that is proof. We can get you that at home. We just have to get your brain to that state. And so that's just indicative of how much stress the body's under at home.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I've noticed this over the years, if only I could be on vacation 24 hours a day,
Yeah.
I just feel like I'd be so much better. But yeah, it's interesting. So coming back to the limbic training now you mentioned visualizations earlier, and you said an hour a day. Now, I hate to put you on the spot, Courtney, and you could totally decline if you want to, but can you give us just a very quick example as to what that would look like? If you could do a visualization for like 30 seconds, like how
Yeah.
would you go about doing that?
So I probably can't do the actual visualization part.
Okay.
But it's where you sit in an elevated state, basically. Yeah. So that's basically what you do. But the thing that I wanted to say to you about what you just said is how you said, I wish I could be on vacation all the time. We can create that for you. The only reason why you're not, why you feel different, is because there's so much stress in your life right now. And if we chip away at you and everybody who's listening, if we start cleaning up the stress in your life, your body can be calm at home too. It doesn't have to just be Hawaii. We can create that for you at your house. And so all of you guys who are so tired and so sick and so over all of the protocols and stuff, you have to understand that like when I went into limbic work, I threw myself into it. I wanted my life back. So like we can get you Hawaii at home. We just have to, you have to take that very, very seriously, that you have to bring joy back and fun and remove all the stressful things. And when I say unfollow everybody from social media, I mean unfollow all the health stuff. And you guys are listening to this channel right now, and you can keep listening to anything that's about limbic work, anything that's about your condition. If you've already been researching for years, you don't need 6 more months. You need to get your brain online. So you can listen to all kinds of stuff like this, only either recovery stories and or brain retraining stuff.
Okay. So, and then going on to the diet side of the component, because now you also teach GAPS diet, is that correct?
Mhm.
Yeah. So how important is that aspect to it? Does diet really play a huge role in terms of the healing?
Yeah.
What do you recommend on that side? I mean, I know everybody's different, but maybe just you could just speak to that generally.
Yeah, everybody's body is really different. I work with about 40 different diets that we kind of like mesh and combine for different people's bodies and different conditions. The best thing that I can say is to really have a skilled practitioner, because each condition needs a different diet protocol. The one that worked for the person online that you see, so like you see somebody was in remission and they did this diet, there may be one thing about their case that you don't know, which is why the practitioner chose that diet. Or you may have one piece to your puzzle why a practitioner would choose a different diet. And then to find somebody really skilled and go slow. because over 2-year process, you can rebuild the entire microbiome and the nervous system. And it's a really beautiful process. It's a slow, beautiful process, but the diet is so imperative. But I can't say it's more important than the limbic work, because I did the diet for 8 years and it didn't give me recovery. It didn't get me to remission.
Okay.
My brain had to get online so that the diet could do the job.
Okay. And how long did you really start to, were the results kind of immediate from the limbic training, or can you give us like a timeline as to like, how long it might take somebody to really see real results from that?
Yeah, 6 months to 2 years. So it's not a joke. You have to be very committed. But what I can tell you is within the first 6 weeks, my emotional state started to lift, which was unbelievable. It was such a gift. And then so like slowly I would start to notice, oh, I have like a little bit more bandwidth. So I used to like come back from a couple clients and I would feel like an empty balloon, like just totally wiped out. And I was like, I'm like, okay, I'm like energy. I can keep going. Um, I had gotten to the point where I would go into big box stores and just the stimulation, the noise was too much. So like I wouldn't really go to the store, or I would go in and out very fast. And then I would just notice like, oh, I've been in the store for like 40 minutes. I'm totally fine. I don't even hear the background noise. Like, so those things happened. That happened along the way. I'd say within the first 6 weeks, my mood lifted. My food intolerances were towards the end. Um, and limbic work is something that I still have in my back pocket, meaning if my body starts to ever get stressed, I can do limbic work and calm my body so that symptoms don't flare.
And maybe lastly, if you could just speak to how it feels like, what it feels like to go on the other side, because, there's so many people, I know in my case, I've been at this for about 5.5 years, not as quite as long as you were at it for, but it almost seems like that healthy version of myself is so far removed that I can't even remember what it feels like to feel healthy again. So to me, it's like when I have my good days, it just feels like I've won the lottery. I could go out, I'm just like looking at the trees and like picking out blades of grass, like I'm in like Wonderland or something. So, when you started feeling better, like what was happening? What did you notice? Like, was it just, were you head in the clouds, just amazing? Like, tell us about the life on the other side, Courtney. I need to know this.
Yeah, great question. What I can tell you is years later, my life is still that wonderful. Like after having been that sick and coming out of it, regular life to me is so beautiful. You know, food, my life, my identity as an athlete had got taken from me. Couple months ago, I ran my first 10-mile race in a long time in the mountains in Utah. I'm doing a 10-mile race in a couple weeks. I'm in awe of the amount of hours I can work. I'm just honestly, when I had gone through when I was going to school for functional nutrition, I was in the place where I was like spinning all, like doing all the things that I had to do, just like maintain. And what I really thought when I went through school is, I don't know if there's actual recovery for people. I think we can get them to a place where they can just like function and live again, because that's where I was. And I was actually really happy there because I had been so sick before. And then I did limbic work and I was like, holy cow, you can like get your life back, like really get your life back, not just like manage with symptoms and supplements and managing histamine loads. Like you can get your life back. And for that, I mean, that is worth walking forward and finding a way through, it is so, so important. If I could just plant the seed for anybody, that it's unbelievable what the human body can do to repair and to heal. And if my body can, if other human bodies can, yours can too.
If you could take a time machine and go back to before you got sick, Would you do it? Or do you regret having gone through that experience?
No, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because I was sent here to this planet. I'm on a big mission to help a lot of people get their life back. I'm also on a big mission to help instill American values and hard work in people. I want to, so I was a life coach for 15 years, so I combine functional nutrition and life coaching. And I like have this huge calling on my heart to help everybody get healthy, help everybody learn about personal excellence and personal discipline, because when we take ownership of everything and we have high integrity, the whole world works better. And so no way, man, I'm here to make a big impact on the world. And had I not gotten sick, I wouldn't have these tools. So
Amazing.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much, Courtney. I was hoping if you could just tell us before we end the conversation, how people could perhaps book a consultation with you, or what you have going on in terms of perhaps support groups or anything that people could join. And just let us know about your, what you have coming up.
Yeah, so you can find me on the Enable Your Healing website. You can email me at Courtney@finalkeywellness.com. I'm on Instagram at final.key.wellness. And I do a limbic group. I do limbic coaching. I do straight functional nutrition, so helping people with serious chronic disease. I work with really, really complex cases. And then I work with just general cases. And then I also have a 6-month program, which I had gained and lost the same 70 pounds multiple times. And I want to help free people from a cycle of gaining and losing weight. And I built a 6-month program and have a whole community that helps people change their relationship with food for the last time. So that you could email me for, find me on Instagram.
All right, guys. Well, I'll link her credentials down below in the description. Courtney, I just want to thank you so much for coming on. I'd love to have you on again at some point if you'd like to. But thanks so much for listening, guys, and get in touch with Courtney. I promise you will not regret it. She's amazing. So thanks so much, Courtney.
Thank you.